Good morning. Good morning. I'm audible. I'm visible. Yes, I am. Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good afternoon. We'll wait 2-3 minutes as always. The quorum isn't there. So, long week. A lot of things happened. Last time when we met, India was bowling. So, good afternoon. Yes, last time when we met, it was the World Cup. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. 3 new modules we start. Quite interesting ones. No, Ramavat, no. In the break. So as always, today we go like this. We go from 12 to, and I'm sorry there was some glitch in the morning. 12 to 3 p.m. Then 3:40 to 5:40, and thereafter 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I think this is the way. Yep. So we go like this. I have got a lot of emails, Aditya. I will have to reply to them. I know it may have your email also. Okay, so part A, part B, part C, lunch break here and evening break here. We have to cover 3 very heavy modules. So I'm bracing you already, wherein we have to cover social justice reform proper, 2 modules of reform movement and 1 module of tribal and peasant, if we are able to start that today. And very simply, once this is over, the pain is over. Yes, at 3. So we go like this in the sense that today we will finish this, and tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day because we do 1857, we do the early nationalism, we discuss the formation of the INC, and we do moderates. So tomorrow we basically start nationalism properly whilst discussing 1857. Right now our agenda is basically to cover the socialist reform movement and tribal and peasant. These are 2 areas out of which, though not a lot of questions have come, but generally students tend to get flustered quite a lot in this area. Last lecture and today, no. Last lecture we stopped at the acts. There's no connection with this today what we are doing. So my disclaimer to you already is that this is going to be a little bit heavy because it's factual area, organization, these, that, standard organization things. And there is nothing really to teach other than telling you what is the importance and how to rearrange or in a way make the data better for understanding. So I'll tell you the trick of learning, and there are certain theoretical aspects with regard to rise. And so there's initially theory, then a lot of organizations, Brahmo Samaj, this Samaj, that Samaj. Then before tribal peasant, again a lot of theory, and then again things. So if you've ever gone through this section yourself, you would know that there's a lot of facts here. And there is also one very important thing which I will tell you once everybody is here. Was only policy of the Raj responsible for nationalism as it is became just one that we will discuss. That we will discuss, but it is, yes, it is only nationalism is the product of colonialism in that sense. Okay, so we'll wait 1 more minute because I'm still missing a little bit of students. So 1 more minute and then we start. I did not attend last Saturday, Sunday. There is no connection with last Saturday, Sunday of what we are starting here. Nothing at all. Last Saturday, Sunday, what we discussed was Charter Act, this, that, and economic policy. You would have to go through the videos yourself. That cannot be summarized so quickly. Okay. Ajay, I'll try to give that link to you, not right now. Maybe later I have to give it to you. There's no SME, I'll give it to you. No, the PPT is enough. Can we start, everyone? Everyone's here. We waited that 1 minute. Okay. Jaswant has uh, given us the list. Okay. I hope this is correct. I'm making it public. We should hunt Lyle. He's given the acronym also. Woods Dispatch, Strache, Hunter, Lyle, McDonald, Ray, Sandler, Hartog, Sargent. So you have added, as I told you, the Femin commissions. Very good. Perfect, Puneet. Perfect. Tamil Nadu board is good, but in certain areas there's problems. So you have to pay attention. For example, you can't do ancient medieval from that because there's a little bit of problem that is. Perfect. Thank you, Jaswant. You have done service to the nation by basically putting it. And if we go by it, our thing was wo, hu, ra, sad, her, sir. And according to you, after wo will get strache and hunter Lyle. Lyle is between this ly and McDonald Sadler. SNMM McDonald after Lyle. Acha, then back to back McDonald. So okay. So as Jaswant has done very good service to us, he has pointed out that if we add to wo who ra sad her sir, this was basically for education. If you put in wo and who ra sad her sir, then we get the proper, this is feminine plus education. That's very good. So basically sad wo who ra sad her sir remains the same. Everything comes between wo and who. So perfect. I listened that they did not live in 1956 but 62. We'll discuss that. So this is good stuff. Thank you, Jaswant. Thank you so much for that. I can copy it and paste it also. Yes, I'll put it in front of everybody so that they can see it also if they're not looking into that. Yes, this is what Jaswant has sent us. So he's already made a acronym also. We should hunt Lyle, Mad, Rage, Sadler, hang in the SAR pass we. Okay, thank you, Jaswant. Perfect. Now, we have covered a lot of very interesting modules till now. We have discussed, for example, the story of the economic policy, and last week was about coming till 1853 when it comes to acts. We summarized the Court of Directors, Board of Control, the GGI, LC, Madras, Bombay, and Bengal. This is a structure which we saw last. According to the Government of India Act, according to Government of India Act 1853, this was the Charter Act of 1853, not Government of India Act. So according to Charter Act of 1853, this was the structure which was produced. The Court of Directors, the Board of Control, the Governor General of India, with his Legislative Council, Executive Council, Governor of Madras, Bombay, and Bengal. This is what we summarized. Other than that, we also had a very long discussion with regards to deindustrialization, drain of wealth, land settlements, commercialization, all these things, how they're related to each other. So we have established a lot of things. So now what we have covered in a way, what we've covered is that we've discussed Advent. we've discussed expansion, and we've also discussed the three pillars of consolidation, which is education, constitutional development, and the economic policy. And today we start a very important two set. One is called socio-religious reform, and the other one is called the resistance to the Raj. Under resistance to Raj, we will cover peasant and tribal. And the pinnacle of this is going to be 1857, as we will discuss tomorrow. Now, one thing is very clear, that this is how we have been moving around. Now, till this point, does anybody have any problem? Because then I want to give a very important disclaimer for social justice reform movement and start. Can we start? Is there any issue? Does anybody have any issue? If you not watch the video, I would encourage you to go and watch the video. Maybe because the match you did not watch it, whatever it may be. But I expect you to be up to scale and up to speed with regards to whatever we've done till this point. Video in a sense, some students may have not attended last Saturday, Sunday. So for them, I'm asking, if they've not done it, they should watch it again. Okay, done? I want everybody's assertion, yes or no? Okay. Now, first things first, very important. There is no end to social religious reform movement. What I mean by that is that when it comes to organizations and when it comes to the different socio religious reform personalities, there's no end to it. There can be close to 50, 60 of them. And what a lot of students do is that they chase the paper according to the aspect that how we are going to meet everything. How we are going to meet everything. And that too, they will learn 50 to 70 different facts for one question. It's basically not worth it. What I mean to say is very simple. It's not worth it, because if you start to fill up your mind with a lot of facts out of social reform movement, you will forget things out of where things really matter. So my first request to you is going to be, please don't get flustered if you find a random name or a random person in the examination. There will be a chance that even if you learn these 50, 60, there will be one which the UPSC would know, you would not know, and they will give it to you. So first things first is, we will do a finite number out of which 99.9% of all questions can be done. I will show that to you also tomorrow. But for that 0.01%, we are not going to end our journey with modern India, or we are going to die over it. The first point you need to understand, which is, there's no need to go through everything. Please, this is a point, if you understand, you will understand the importance of the area automatically. Second, in no way the organizations I am discussing is exhaustive and it has everything. No. It has all the main things. In again, 90 to 99% of all questions will revolve around these organizations only. For that 1%, we will again not chase the paper. This area is important because you do get one prelims question and there has been a mains question. Cannot ignore these personalities, cannot leave these personalities, because they're important generally. And this area generally is important because it will be a very important stepping stone into a new phase in Indian history. But as I said, people or students tend to get flustered in the factual zone and forget that this area is not that important that you give up on everything because of this basically not knowing the basics. So if we are clear with regards to this, that we are not going to get bogged down by random organizations and rather concentrate on the ones which we have to cover, then we can start our journey. This was a disclaimer which everybody needs to accept and should know in that regard. Yes? Yes? Okay. Now, let's talk about the socialist reform movement. Let's talk about the socialist reform movement. And for once, let's try to understand what it is. What it is. Now, when the British came, now pay attention. Now I'm starting to teach very important understanding. This is the origin of the socialist reform movement. So when the British came, they came with what intention? What was their main intention? What was their main intention? The main intention was trade and thereafter exploitation. So either they wanted to do trade or they wanted to do exploitation. However, the British can't say that. The British can't go around saying that we are India because we are looting India. That would be too dangerous an argument on the part of the British. And they have to justify, the East India Company has to justify its presence in India. Now, their justification will develop as soon as they will see India. And they will realize that when it comes to women and when it comes to depressed classes, the subcontinent does not have a very good track record. To be very honest, sati, infanticide, no widow remarriage, child marriage, you name it and we have it. When it comes to social evil, when it comes to social evil, you just name it and we'll have it. Dowry, yes. Forticide they can't do because they don't have the what we call as technology to know the fetus gender. No education for women, Devdasi tradition, polygamy, anything and everything. Depressed classes, same thing. Social exclusion, social discrimination, no entry to temples, discrimination, purity, untouchability, certain forms of slavery. Let's be very honest that in the Indian subcontinent, we have a very bad track record of social justice or social exclusionary trends or any inclusiveness in that regard. India is at this point of time problematic vis-a-vis that for sure. For sure that's problematic. Now the point is that with such problematic understanding, this gave a chance to the British to justify their rule. So based on the condition of women, see, the British came to India. East India Company came to India. And we asked the British, why are you here? Why are you here? Obviously, they can't say that we are here to loot. That would be an absurd proposition. Because if you say that, there will be rebellion automatically. So, the British say that we are here because you are barbarians, you are savages, and you are civilizationally very inferior. And we come from a very high civilization, very superior civilization, and we want to civilize you, which is called the white man's burden. White man's burden. That we are here to civilize. But the people of India will say, how? How are you better than us? Or what is the indicator for civilization? So the British said that the status and superiority of the civilizations is based on, and drumroll, status of women. They said that how you treat your women tells us if you are better or worse, superior or inferior. And based on what the missionaries had seen, what the British had seen, women in India were in a very bad condition. Based on that, British is a superior civilization, superior civilization, and therefore it has a right over the Indian civilization to be ruled. This is basically how the British used to sleep in the night. They used to argue that they are in India because they're doing good. But behind this whole project, behind this whole argument, the real intention is different. The real intention is economic exploitation. Economic exploitation. So in a way, the British have now created a moral justification of rule. So what the British have actually done is they've showed us a picture. We said we are the most ancient civilization. We are the world of, or the land of Vedas, Upanishads. The British said, let me show you a picture. In that picture, we have sati, child marriage, widow, no widow remarriage. We had dowry. We had infant killings. We had slavery. We had the concept of no education, no economic rights. And this became the moral justification to be in India. To be in India. Widows, yes, widows asked to not wear bangles, white sari. That is called austerity. That is no widow remarriage, ostracization of women. Did England have any social evils, discrimination? Yes, they had, but it was not this pronounced. Nowhere in England were women burnt alive with the corpse of the husband. Nowhere in the world were girl child poisoned because girls were considered a burden on society. None of these things. Yes, Victorian notions of civilization are very low. But the point is that when it came to women and depressed classes, sure, go ahead, Rani, it is even worse in India. Widows were asked to shave their heads. They were asked to live a different life. They were not asked to eat the same food. India is a very problematic subcontinent when it comes to social track record at this point of time, properly. There's no doubt about that it is a literally problematic place. Yes, slave trade is there, but according to them, see, they are the ones who decide. They said it is not slavery which is the indicator. They very conveniently chose women as the indicator. And we have a very bad record when it comes to women. We have a very bad record according to this basic women issue. So now understand one thing, that when the criticism came, when the critique came, when this picture was shown, the socio-religious reform movement is a response to this criticism. Understand this point, that this was not organic, it was a response. The middle class intelligentsia, middle class educated elites, they wanted to respond to these issues, and they are going to become the socio reformers. So in a way, the socialist reform movement is not an innocent random act which started, that one day we got up and said, okay, let's abolish sati. No, it was based on a proper policy, on a proper concept of the British criticizing us day and night, and we responding. Now there's one more very simple point, that from education to inequality, superstition, sati, widow, child marriage, female infrared dowry system, to untouchability, lack of education, oppression, poverty, lack of access to pilgrimage, so no social mobility, and most affected by natural disasters and outbreaks. The British wanted to create this argument. In no way am I arguing that the British are better, but they wanted to create this argument because then they can justify the rule. I cannot emphasize this point enough, that they are justifying their rule in India via a moral justification. But when it came to the British intervening, they have very lukewarm response and very slow response to most of these things. And that is why the socialist reform movement is divided into three parts. One is called early intervention, which is legislative reform. And then you have socio-religious reform movement, which is divided into two parts, which we'll discuss later, reformist and revivalist. This is British intervention, and this is our own educated elites taking the initiative. So if we understand that the way socialist reform movement starts is linked to this very important ring, which is that there's opposition from Western culture. There's a very pessimistic attitude which comes from the Christian missionaries. And the impact of British rule is that these things become more pronounced. They start to target the prevailing social evils. And with modern education, the middle class intelligentsia respond. And that is what is for us the socio-religious reform. Socio-religious reform. If we can understand this, then I would want to go into the first story, which is early legislative reform and British response. Are you able to connect the dots here? What I'm trying to argue? Yes, that there's a certain chain of events which has happened. The socialist reform movement is not linked to randomly our reformers coming into action. It is rather the British criticizing us, and then we are trying to reform ourselves. Not automatic, organic, but a response to British rule in India. If this point is clear, then we move forward. Is this point clear? Thought in trace number, women, queens, saints, poets, how the situation got deteriorated over time. Since the later Vedic period, this is the same story. I don't know if you've done ancient medieval with me. I will tell you the story of how things went bad to worse throughout ancient India. Everything has genesis in the Vedic period. The fourfold Varna system and agrarian society agriculture of the later Vedic period will destroy everything. Is this happening in 18th century? I'll tell you, the timing is two. Early intervention is 18th century, that is 19th century. Then these reformers start standing with British or not. They will first take the help of the British. They will be a product of colonialism, so they cannot see, they are not truly nationalists. They're not truly nationalists. There's still a long way to go for them to become nationalists in that regard. So they basically took the advantage of the evils present in the society, and we responded, yes, very good. Very, very good. I'm making this public, very good way of understanding this. So they took the advantage of the social evils to create a moral justification, and we responded to it, and that is the social reform movement. Are we coming to Raja Ram Mohan Roy? Don't worry. Our elite person were educated by the British, yes. Ishwar Chandra, Vidyasagar, Vivekanand, we'll discuss all of them. If you're able to follow this train of thought, that the socialist reform movement is nothing but a response rather than an organic movement, then we talk about the British way of doing it. Because the British did not do a lot. We tend to argue, is the reform movement a product of colonialism? Yes. Exact point. Colonialism produced the socialist reform movement. The socialist reform movement could not have come into existence if the reform movement was not in colonialistic context. It is like camouflaging to gain trust and then loot. Yes. They have one face in front of them and the other face behind it. This face is of moral justification, that we are here to civilize. Whilst on the background, the real person stands, which is economic exploitation. Economic exploitation. What was structure before 12th came? That is Gurukul, Madrasa, a traditional education. Yes, the British acted like a mirror. True. British showed us this mirror and we saw a very ugly face. That ugly face was then used by the British to rule us in a way. But these reformers will remove that moral justification also. Don't worry. That will also come. That will also come. But there's time to that. For that, I have to first discuss with you what the British would be doing. Can we discuss that? Can we talk about early intervention? Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, we will discuss. Okay, yes. Perfecto. Okay, now when it came to the British, we are now starting early intervention. Now, when it came to the British, between 1770, you can say 1765, and to 1857, they have a very cautious approach. There's a whole period of inactivity because of the Orientalists. Orientalists do not want to change anything. So while we have individuals who are responding, state policy only worked in three areas: sati, infanticide, and slavery. But more than that, the precondition for the British to intervene was to make sure it was not a religiously sanctioned act or tradition. Basically, till the British are not clear that it is not sanctioned by religion, they really don't respond to anything. They mostly don't respond to anything. Meaning that until unless they are 100%, 110% sure that the British or that the Indians are not doing it as not written in a scripture, until then they will not respond in any way or form. They will not respond in any way or form. So you need to understand one thing very clearly, that the British were also very big hypocrites, because they will only do intervention into three areas, and thereafter they will not really respond in any way or form. And that is why the biggest intervention came in their context in Sati in only 1829, and that too under Bentinck. And what is the ideological orientation of Bentinck? What is the ideological orientation of Bentinck? He's an Anglican utilitarian. So the utilitarians are ready to respond, whilst Hastings and all never did nothing. So if you look at the first early intervention, this intervention was plagued by inactivity under the Orientalists, who did not want to intervene in the affairs of the subcontinent. And it is the utilitarians who said that we need to do good for the people. But understand this point. Utilitarian agenda is to intervene and create a drama that the British are here to do good. What I mean by that is that they argue that this is necessary to mask colonialism. So the British have been hailed by a lot of people as Masihas who changed Sati. But what I'm trying to argue to you is that even when they were responding in Sati, there was an agenda. They were trying to abolish Sati because that was part of the larger gimmick which they were doing, which is no, we are here for the greatest good of the greatest number. Though in this process they did a very good thing, extremely good thing, but the utilitarians were the ones who said we need to create this narrative. So the Orientalists were, we will not intervene. But they were like, we have to intervene, because if we don't, then what do we say to the Indians? Why are we here? And therefore, Hastings' government was extremely cautious. At the same point of time, Orientalists began to criticize the were criticizing the missionaries, but the missionaries were criticizing the Orientalists, that why are you not intervening? And there is a urge for modernization and westernization. But understand this point, that modernization and westernization is not independent. It's not independent. It is a strategy of rule to mask colonialism. And only when the evangelicalists, which is one of the Protestant groups, and the utilitarians come to India, that we actually get the first response, which is early intervention. So here again, the British had to be pushed to do something. I don't get it. Priya, you want important points of the chat to be pasted in the PPT. That is what you're saying. I missed the article written by you. I'll give you the articles. Don't worry about that. What do you want to say? So you want me to put any important point which has been made in the chat to be put into the PPT. I'll try to do that, but that is in itself a very big thing, but I'll try to do it. I make that point, I agree. But if you're watching the recorded session, that is the only thing which you can't enjoy. That's the only point. So if you're here live and you're watching it recorded, that is the fundamental difference. That either you can be part of the class or you just watch it randomly. It's not about possibility. I'll try to do it. I get the point because in the recorded session it looks different. So I know. But that is the disadvantage is you don't have to be with me 8 hours here. Disadvantage is that same the other way around. Okay. Why did other colonial rulers not intervene in the country's social matters before British? They did. Akbar did. Jahangir did. Albuquerque did. Even Guru Amardas did. The Sikh gurus did. Everybody intervened in Sati. But the impact was zero to nothing. The impact was zero to nothing. So, yes, Ramant, it will. The simple point I'm trying to argue to you is that please understand this point. The British did not do anything as a favor to us. That is what I'm trying to establish. And Priya, point noted, I'll try to do it. And you guys need the link to the article. I give it to you. Don't worry about that. And if you don't have it, still you can email me. That's not an issue. And if you don't realize it, it is also attached to the dashboard in which the class has been taken. It is attached to it also, but separate issue altogether. The point which I'm trying to argue here is that British intervention is not a benevolent act, but a agenda driven by the utilitarians. Is this correct? Or is this right? Are we on the same page with regards to that? I'm trying to change your perception of how the British saw or how you should see the British as a social reformer. The social reform of the British was not an innocent act. It was based on a larger agenda of the utilitarians to show to the people that we were doing good, and therefore they justify the rule by saying that we're doing good in India. Why utilitarians wants to mask having idea of pronouncing it more? See, the utilitarians need to mask it because they have changed the perspective. See, the Orientalists don't need to mask because they are not doing anything. So they are acting like we are just here. But because the utilitarians are changing a lot of things, there are two ways you can actually justify, right? Either I come to class and not teach you. And when I come to class and not teach you, I can say that that is what is needed. But when I start to teach you, I have to justify why I'm teaching you. So they were justifying these changes they were making for further accelerated exploitation as moral changes which were needed for justification of rule in that regard. If you look at it, it is a very big agenda. It's a very big agenda. Orientalists don't want to change anything because they don't need to change anything or they're not changing anything. So they don't need to change anything or give justifications. When the Orientalists start or the utilitarians start to fiddle with the Indian society, Indian subcontinent, people will ask, why are you doing this? So they said, because we need to do good in India, we are doing this. That's the point. Yes, get the people or basically distract the people in a certain direction so that people think that the British are actually doing good in India rather than looting us. That's the basic point. If they change the society, they might get in a lot of protest from Indian society. How they controlled it. Shilpa, see, they did not touch something which was too popular. For example, they did not go and straight away said that, for example, we will not allow, we will destroy all temples. That was too much for them. They will only touch something which will not garner too much protest or it was too brutal. For example, early intervention to sati was needed or the Indians were asking for it in that regard. I'll come to sati. I don't worry about sati. The point is not that. Shilpa, you're getting my point. That they will not do fundamentally. Utilitarians also just touch three things: sati, infanticide, and what we call as slavery, which was not even properly existent in India. I have read that Christian missionaries came to India and changed the evil going in sati, no land for women. Missionaries were the first to point out that was something which good they did, Priya, which is that they did in a way actually create a narrative which created a critique which was necessary. See, to be very honest, whatever be the agenda of the British, socio-religious reform movement was needed. I think we all can agree on this point that blatantly, if we go by how Indian subcontinent was, if there was no intervention and if there was no way in which India could go forward, socialist reform movement was needed because we were in that regard extremely bad when it came to women and depressed classes. So missionaries were the first amongst the Europeans to say that, okay, we've gone into the countryside, we've seen certain things that is not right. So early intervention should be seen as a larger agenda, but they are also not an innocent act, but also needed. This was needed. This mirror somebody had to show, and and the unintended product of the British colonialism was at least these social evils got called out. Can we all agree? Yes. Okay, perfect. Now, the first thing in which they intervened is called infanticide. Now, basically, infanticide is the killing of a girl child or a female infant after birth. There's something called forticide, this other is called infanticide. Infanticide is possible at this point of time because forticide, they did not have the technology. They didn't have the technology to determine the gender of the fortis or the fetus in the mother's womb. So they can't kill the girl child in the mother's womb, but that is called forticide. That is prevalent in modern India today. But infanticide is something which could be done once the girl child is born. It is again not something new because it is still there that the parents and societies and communities in India prefer, unfortunately, a male child. Women are seen as, girls are seen as burdens on the society itself, and therefore, on birth, they were given differential treatment and were also poisoned to death. Poisoned to death so that that burden was off that family. And it was actually Jonathan Duncan and William Carey who were the first to intervene. Duncan was the one who even was ready to monetarily compensate the families by saying that don't kill that girl child. I will compensate for her. And William Carey was the first one, and that was a very important point. William Carey proved to the British that this was not a practice given in the Vedas, the Upanishads, or the scriptures. And that is why the regulation 6 is going to come in 1802 to make this a criminal offense. To make this a criminal offense. And therefore, the first place where the British actually intervened is infanticide. And again, an inhumane practice in India has no justification, even if the scriptures say about it. The response, however, 1802, the British are only properly rooted in Bengal. The response is not a lot of opposition. but it is limited impact, very limited impact, because this practice was more common in the Western societies rather than the West East Indian societies. And more than that, British regulation, if today we all pass a regulation that cars will not run on the roads of India, it has no impact because we are not the stakeholders. So it's about British being very limited in India. So therefore, the intervention may be very good, ideologically, morally, no real impact. Now comes the $1 million question: Sati. Sati. As far as know, during early Vedic equal deputized, later Vedic changes, why continuous farmer? Puneet, that is not how things work. And you're right. I don't know if you've done ancient with me. Early Vedic society is not, it's not that it is non-patriarchal, it is patriarchal still. But there is a little bit of equality between men and women. They can emphasize about the early Vedic period, but the people are not going to listen to you like that. That let's go back to the Vedas, let's go back to the Vedas. That is not how it's going to work. And don't seek Vedic civilization too much, because Vedic civilization is the same one which was perpetuating caste and Varna system. So Hinduism, in that sense, is inherently plagued by these issues. In that sense, how it's good we recently got better ratio for male and female, females more than males. Not in every state in India. We still have a very skewed sex ratio. Maybe southern states it has improved. Northern states, Haryana, Rajasthan, a lot of different states in India still have a very bad sex ratio, very, very bad sex ratio. Now, let's talk about Sati. Does it mean like Christian missionaries came and pointed to the Shira later, the English work on these points? Priya, people knew about it, but they've had no. See, please understand this point. Christian missionaries will point it out, the English will act upon it, but Sati was more prevalent than just the Christian missionaries were seeing. So the British intervention is not going to come automatically, or it's not something which people did not talk about. I am telling you, medieval rulers tried to do it. Sati, first things first. First things first. There was proportion of Muslim population, any interference there? We'll discuss. Akash, Muslim socialist reform movement we'll discuss separately. That is different issue altogether. We're right now in Hindu practices. And that too, the Muslim reform came from within. The British did not intervene too much into Muslim culture in that sense, but they distorted their Sharia itself. That's a separate issue altogether. Now, when we're talking about Sati, Sati is the practice in which a child bride or a woman has to sit on the funerary pyre of the husband, and she is burnt alive with the husband who is dead as a form of a ritualistic practice. Now, some of you will ask me about the origin. Some of you will ask me about when did it start? Is it sanctioned by religious books? Where is it written? What is the logic? Because there are multiple people on YouTube who will justify Sati for you. But the plain truth here is very straightforward. Be it scriptural, non-scriptural, be it religious, non-religious, be it anything. Sati is an unjustifiable act. If it has been written in the scriptures, that scripture needs to change. And if it is prescribed by people, those people need to change or burnt alive as they are suggesting women to do it. Sati in no way is justified. Sati is an inhumane act. And Sati, in all fairness, is one of the brutalest form of social practice there can be. By giving the origin, I will not justify and validate how it started. by telling you the evolution of this practice, I will also not tell you or justify and validate and give any form of heed to the history of sati, because the moment it started, it was a barbaric practice. Doesn't matter how it started. So if you are looking for a reason to see why does it start, then you're looking for a justification. So small children who had never seen their child groom, and burning women alive is something which is basically unjustifiable. So from the outset itself, it is very clear that we cannot validate, we cannot justify, and we should not justify in any way or form this inhumane, brutal, barbaric practice. So I'm not going to have a discussion about the history of the sati, because I really don't care about it. When it started, it was, I really don't care if it is written in a scripture. If it is, then that scripture is problematic, because whatever be the justification, it is not justified. Now, when it came to this practice, it is prevalent across India, all districts, all areas, throughout different upper class families. And the British were not the first to talk about sati, or not the first to talk about sati. This practice, which traces its origin to the post-Gupta period, prevalent in all castes and its self-immolation, the British were not the first to say. From Akbar to Jahangir to Guru Amardas to Maratha chief Ahilya Bai to the Peshwas to King of Tanjore to the Portuguese, everybody discouraged this practice. In 1789, you have Brooke, the collector of Shahabad, who said that I will not allow sati to happen in my district. Then we have Colebrook, who in 1795 said that the Vedas also don't demonstrate or sanction this type of practice in India. But the most important point is that till 1797, district magistrates were trying to stop sati. It will, however, be Wellesley who will put this whole project in the dump, because he will show to the court of directors that maybe there is a law, there is a legal sanction, there's a religious sanction for sati, and if we do abolish it, it can lead to widespread dissatisfaction. Widespread dissatisfaction. And in that context, with widespread dissatisfaction, now the British started to fear that if we do something to sati, maybe something will happen. And it is only one man and his campaign with the British from 1818 to 1829 that Raja Ram Mohan Roy, you can call him anything, but this is his very major contribution. He had a proper campaign to show to the British, and only when the British got convinced that okay, it is not a religious practice, his campaign against sati began in 1818. Until 1829, he will keep on arguing that sati needs to be abolished. It is not sanctioned by religion. And then the court of directors will then get convinced by 1829 that they need to, and through the regulation 17, they will make it an inhumane practice and say that it is a criminal offense punishable by law if you are practicing this concept, and if a government servant or a zamindar is having this within his area of control, he is responsible for that. But this was the last time the British ever touched anything major. After this, the British never took up on any major issue. They did have certain other smaller projects which they did, but sati was the biggest thing in which the British were actively ready to intervene into. So infanticide and sati are two areas in which the British intervention did come once established that they are not religious. Once established that they are not religious. Clear about sati and infanticide? Sati was such an inhuman act. Why did the women in those days resist that? Why were there any women against it act? Who are they? See, again, the point is women should resist patriarchy, but they don't. It's called indoctrination, it's called internalization. And the women who are doing it are not doing it voluntarily. It is all morals and social pressure. So the point is that yes, it is an inhuman act. Women would have resisted, they would have been thrown into the fire. It's not a democratic society that you move to the Supreme Court and say that it is being done to me. This is a socially sanctioned concept. We, the Indians, sanctioned it. That is why it was happening. Shada Act, Puneet, very late to do it in this period. We'll discuss Shada Act, don't worry. But very, very late. Very late. Before that, we have much bigger things they've done. Age of consent will be more important. Till date, yes, Tina is right to say that. That till date, a lot of things are happening in the society. Do women say about it? Do women talk about it? No. They're still being exploited by the society, but they are still have to listen to it. It's matter of 150 years. People have completely different ideology from now. No, that is not true. We all are still the same. It's just that the IPC says that if you do it, you think honor killing is not happening in India. You think dowry death is not there. You think that women have access to education. You think girl child is not being discriminated against. You think that women have been given access to economic resources. You think that women have access to land. Just because you see 10 to 15% of the women in the urban sector moving out does not mean that the social realities for women have changed. Sexual harassment, rape, everything is still prevalent. Okay, sati is gone, but the form of exploitation has changed. We have come a long way, but we still have to go a very long way. Please be very clear that maybe the British did need to show us this picture. Nowadays, if sati would be practiced, there's no documented there's no documented proof of sati as of right now, but it would be happening in different way. If you are putting if you are burning brides because of dowry issue, isn't that sati only? That's a different form of sati. In rural India, there are multiple cases of we are doing much brutal things today than actually sati. Caste based discriminations, a lot of these things we still have to go forward. Bettina, by saying that both genders are exploited today, you are being kind to the other gender, but let's be very honest, yes, there is problems. Depressed class does not see gender, varna caste does not see gender, but women's issue in India are much more systemic and problematic than men. Let's be very honest that we are in a pathetically bad situation when it comes to women's safety. So today is International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. I didn't know that, but we are talking about it at least. Child marriages in modified form is there. If we don't do infanticide, you tell me that even when it's a criminal offense, foeticide and fetal or fetal gender, what we call as determination, is over in India. No, still we have multiple cases in which the code words have come through. Everything is the same. Everything is the same. So Jaswant is telling us that I'll I'll put his Jaswant. See, he's a testimony to this. So you see, Nikhil is telling us that, see, domestic violence is also a form of violence only, right? So let's be very honest. Let's be very honest. Education is a very important thing. But do you think COVID-19 impacted male child and girl child the same way? How wild have you should have informed the police. You think that that marriage was not happening with the sanction of the police of that area? Ramvant, it's very easy to say. Rural India and parts of India and communities in India do a lot of things. Most probably the police, he's telling us, police itself was attending, sir. You see, you take it. Last week, ESC, two rows, one upper class, two others. And so, to be very honest, these Europeans are no better. America is so regressive that abortion has become an issue. It's not us. I'm talking about everybody. America is today, women are in a way a little bit better off in India than actually in America. That is the irony of the story. In America, women do not have access to abortion. They do not have access to safe forms of controlling their own body. Rape, violence against women, single mothers, all the numbers are the highest in America. Again, Gib, you are, I think, not understanding. I don't think if I'm 19 years old and I want to get married is bad. No. Child marriage means 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, not 19, 20. Where are you? Child marriage does not mean it means a minor. Child, literally child marriage. You want to marry at 19 or 20, that is your problem, not ours. We are talking about children getting married. See, very simply, women in every civilization, be it up or down, are subject to violence. And abolishing sati was not something very big thing which the British did. It was necessary, but at least we can give credit to the British that they had the courage to challenge it. So, if we are clear about sati, we had this conversation. We can then move on to slavery, and then I will give you a breather, and then we'll move to the most important, which is reform movement. Okay, perfect. So now, slavery. Now, the Charter Act of 1833 said that slavery should be abolished, but it was not properly ever pushed through. It was an act in 1843 which abolished slavery in India. So it was effective intervention. In a way, British acts would have very limited impact until unless the people did want to change. Because the British will not go and enforce it to the ground. Slavery 1843 was the act which abolished. But the problem is that slavery in India is not what we think it is. See, when the British abolished slavery in 1833 or 1813, they were thinking about black slavery, which is the worst form of slavery which ever existed in civilizations and societies, which is the American type slavery, the African American population, the African slavery. In India, slavery is a very, what we call as a problematic aspect of the concept itself, because there are people who work for the temple for free as a form of devotion. You can't call that slavery itself. There's also something called predial slavery in India, in which people will work on the land for free or for no money, so as to restore its fertility as a devotion to the land god. Dasa Dasi tradition was also there in India for centuries, thousands of centuries. But that was not properly beating up the Dasa Dasi. It was not about exploiting Dasa Dasi. It was debt-based slavery or even debt bondage in that regard. So the British never properly understood what slavery was in India. So therefore, there was a lot of contradiction in that sense. So when it came to slavery itself, slavery as a system in India varies from region to region. There were black slaves being bought and sold in the major cities or the major ports, which is Calcutta, Bombay. But in Madras, we have a service-based burden granted to benefit the land tract. So it's a type of devotion-based slavery. You have the Arabs bringing in slaves. In Islam itself, you have a proper slave market in which you can buy able-bodied men. So the problem which the British faced generally was that when William Wilberforce was creating a lot of pressure on the British to abolish slavery, the point was that it was not based on the slavery as we see it today. We see it as a way of maybe devotion or debt-based bondage or the concept generally. So in 1833 they did it, but it didn't work. That was directed by the government of India that you should do it. So there was a specific act which was passed, which is Indian Slavery Act of 1843, which in turn said that slave of or the sale of person as a slave is banned, and buying and selling of slaves is also considered an offense. But as I said, the point which you need to understand is that this will again have limited impact, because except for be it infanticide, be it forticide, be it any of these things, the fact is very simple, which is that these are very limited in scope. Sati, infanticide, and slavery, except for sati, which may be a big thing, these two have very limited impact. So the point is very simple. They abolished slavery, but slavery in India could also take this form of Devdasi tradition. So my basic argument to you is that don't look at the legislative intervention of the British as a godsend. It was part of their bigger agenda. And more than that, the socialist reform movement was independent and linked to the British in a way, because it is the reformers who respond to us or respond, which is more important rather than the British based intervention. So in the child labor is slavery only, yes. Now, if there's a question in which they ask you what are the factors and what is early intervention, you'll be able to write it. What are the factors? You already have these factors in front of you, which is this factors. And we've already discussed the early intervention. If you are in a position to do these two things, I'll give you a breather and then we start the most important discussion: revivalist, reformist, the socialist reform movement. Can we do that? Were these laws applicable for people in Princely State? No. No. Only British India. Were British dedicated to abolish slavery? Yes, they abolished it in the British Isles. They abolished it in America, 1813, 1833. How factor? How show factor? Factors page you want? Okay. Yes, yes. Okay. Slavery completed. Nothing more. One act. All these three, you have to remember the acts and the context. That's it. Can we say that someone as slavery is getting paid for the work? No. Slavery is always free. It's always debt based. It cannot be about paying money. If you pay money, it becomes indentured labor. When was the last official sati practice? Again, not documented. British solved the slavery matter, but not widely existed in India. True. British established themselves naturally, required society wanted things. Uh, Sati was something which Raja Ram Mohan Roy convinced. Infanticide was British driven. Slavery was British driven. Untouchability they did not touch. Depressed class movements will come. We'll discuss that. Can we take a breather and we come back and start the conversation again? First part, you understand the tone of the class. The theoretical part is done. Now we move forward. Okay, perfect. So we come back at 1:35 and we take this story forward. Now comes the revivalist, reformist, and then we'll discuss the reformist first. What is the difference between revivalism and reformism? See you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Can we start again? Yes. Yes, Aniket, it still does. It still does. Middle class intelligentsia is the product of Western education. They have been created in Bengal via the education policy. Okay. Mostly in Bengal. The impact is that way is quite limited in Bengal only. Okay. Now we start our discussion again. Now we've done early intervention. Now the other one is our response, and that is called socio religious reform movement. In a way, later, yes, Aditya. In a way, later. Not we'll talk about moderates later. That story is quite far away, not right now, but yes, in a way. Now, there were two types of ways in which it happened: reformists and revivalists. 1 second. Okay, sorry. Uh, the team was asking me about one thing. Last week there was an issue with the reformists. Not reformists, I'm saying the subjective question paper. You were able to open that up this time? The subjective test which was given on Monday, were you able to open it? 5 questions. No. Have you checked? Have you checked when you went to the last check it please? You it would be in the Sunday class. It would open up and there would be subjective objective test. Is it opening? Because last week there was an issue. That is why I'm asking you right now. I will give you the link to my article. Wait. Please confirm to me. I have to confirm that to the team because last week there was an issue. We are making it sure that you can open it. Link to article I'm giving you. This is the link for copy. Objective isn't opening. Yes, it's opening, getting open now, sir. Take it. So it is opening. One of it is opening. You confirm that to me so that I can confirm it. This is for the railway article. 1 second. Okay. Do you have the links with from me? Opened, sir. खुल गया. Perfect. ठीक है. It's opening. Parshuram and Tina have confirmed that to me. Yes, sir. Week 3, 5 questions opening. Great. Great. Vivek, I am the one who's here. I am sharing. I've done it. I've done it. You need to know how to go to a place and check things. Not every link I'm going to send. People are saying that the link is opening. Figure it out. It is there. It is there. Now, can we come back to discussion? I got a call to confirm that with you. That is why I have called you. You will, in your dashboard, when you will go to the Sunday class, it will pop down. It will have the annotated PPT, unannotated PPT. It will say weekly test, subjective, objective. Week 2 subjective is not opening, but 3 is opening. 3 is there. Shilpa, that we will get sorted. Yes, sir, open. Great. Perfect. Can we come back to discussion? You wanted the people who wanted the link to the railway article and the police article has also been shared. Can we all now settle down? This is important. This is why I've made sure that they do it. If they're not doing it, I'm then calling them and asking them to do it. You have now confirmed to it. If I get a call again, I'll mute myself. I'll confirm that to them. Okay. Now, we are discussing early intervention, and we're discussing our own response to the mirror which the British showed us, and that will be in the form of the socialist reform movement. Now, there were two types of reforms: revivalists, reformists, and revivalists. I'll point it out to them that week 2 is still problematic. Don't worry about that. Reformists and revivalists. Now, please pay attention. If you understand the difference between the two, you will never forget what it really is. And this is a very fundamental question which can be asked in the examination. What is the difference between a reformist and a revivalist? Now, when we talk about reformists, Shreyas, I'll tell them. Okay. When I talk about reformists, the reformists had a certain orientation and understanding of Indian society. And their argument was very straightforward. We'll get it sorted, don't worry. Week 1, week 2, we'll get it sorted. You have pointed that out to me, I will get it done. Week 1, objective not opening. Okay. Does slavery mean buying labor from work, which means initial? No, it's not about buying labor, paying them. No. Slavery is to have a slave at your own disposal. Not if you pay a person, is not a slave. Okay. Now the reformists, their understanding is that all social evils in India are inherent to religion, and therefore we need to move forward by reforming religion. So the reformists identified the issues in Indian society and argued that these issues were inherent to the prevalent religion and the way to move forward was to reform and change religion and religious practice. On the other hand, yes, to have right over them, that is slavery, yes. See, revivalists, there's a very thin line between these two. Revivalists revivalists. The revivalists also identify, like the reformists, that there are issues in our society. However, they argue that all social evils as we see today were not part of the original religion, but were later distortions. Therefore, the way to move forward was to revive the old and original religious practice. Now, this is very interesting. Both goals are the same, issues are same, path is different. Path is different. Reformists identify the issue in Indian society, and they also, revivalists also. But they believe that the issue is inherent to the religion, and therefore you need to reform and change religion. They believe that all social evils were not there in original religion, and moving forward is to revive the original religion in that regard. Deoband is revivalist. Example I will give you, don't worry about that. See, I'll give you an analogy and it should make sense. I'll give you two analogies. Two analogies. Is this making sense? Little bit? Little bit. Even if little bit it is making sense, what I'm saying? Is it? It is. Now you understand this analogy and you will never forget the difference between a revivalist and a reformist. See, the reformist says that there are two types of students in this class. Vivek, I'm telling them stop typing in all caps. Firstly, you joined at 1:15. I know that. But stop doing that. It's annoying. Everybody's typing in standard things. You're putting in full caps. I'll start ignoring it if I see it in that sense. So listen, I'm telling you the difference. There are students who will always write in all caps, thinking that the teacher wo to dikh hi jayega pakka. That is not true. It is more annoying because it fills up the chat, and you have to look for genuine doubts. Now pay attention. In this class, there will be two types of students. One reformist, the other one revivalist. Now pay attention. Now what happens is that you failed the examination. You failed the examination. One set of students will say that they will come to me and say that, sir, we realized that we worked hard, but there were certain issues in my approach. There were certain issues in my approach. I did not trust what you said. I tried to go beyond. I went to YouTube to look for stuff. I did a lot of things. These were practical social evils or issues in my approach. And I believe that it was inherent to my approach itself, how I was studying. Therefore, what I'm going to do is I will change my approach and develop a new approach by reforming my stance or reforming my original approach. So this type of student is looking forward that the problem was in him and he is moving forward by changing himself. But there will be another type of student who's a revivalist, who will say that he will come to me and say that, sir, I failed the examination. And he will say that the problem is not in me, the problem is you. When I started my preparation, I was totally perfect. But whatever you taught me over the last 1 year is what is the problem. So this issue through which I did not clear was not inherent to me, but was distortions provided by your teaching. And therefore, what I will do is I will unlearn whatever you've said and I will go back to what I was when I started my preparation. Both identify issues, but their origins are different for each. One says that it is him who is the problem, that his approach is the problem, he will reform. And one says that whatever happened over the last 1 year, your teaching distorted everything. I was obviously going to clear the examination. You are the reason. Now, another simple analogy would be that you bought a phone. You bought a phone. Over a period of time, 4 updates came to this phone. And your phone developed an issue. Your phone developed an issue. Now, some of you will say that, or some of the shopkeepers say that the phone inherently had this problem even before the updates came, and you need to now go and reform the original or reform the whole phone itself. Some will say, no. The phone was fine. It are these 4 updates which are the problem. So one says that go for another version of that. And some say go to the original OS. The one who says that you go for further updates becomes a reformist. And the one who says that let's go back to the original OS with which it came is a revivalist. Make sense? Well, good thing. I'll make this public because this is... Well, Tina is a reformist. Tina is a reformist. The fact of the matter is, you will now ask me a very loaded question. Tina, I hope this time you are going to reform your approach rather than being a revivalist, right? Yes, very good, perfect. Now there are 2 things. Yes, you will ask me a loaded question, and the loaded question is, who is better? Who is more successful? And the answer to this question is neither and both. In the sense that both have the same goal. Both have the same goal. Both have the same target. One is reaching from the left, the other one is reaching from the right. All target child marriage. All target that widow remarriage should be there. all target the fact that education should be there for women, all target caste system, all target patriarchy. Reformists and revivalists just have their different approaches to solve this issue. Well, perfect, Tina. Are you getting my point? Is this making sense to you? Is this making sense to you? Because if it is, this is one standard question which comes in the examination. The standard question which comes in the examination: what is the difference between a reformist and revivalist? I want everybody's assertion yes. And then we move forward. I have taught you since the morning that why did socialist reform movement start? I've discussed with you also the aspect related to the fact that what is the early intervention, what is the basic idea and the basic concept and the agenda of the British. I've also taught you the concept of now revivalism and reformism. I've tried to create an understanding which is fundamental, because the UPSC can give you sentences in the examination which can play with this concept. Which can play with this concept. You just have to understand one thing: no one is regressive and nobody is progressive, because you tend to judge them. Communist is revivalist or reformist? Neither, because that is not socialist reform movement. Revivalists make change by going back to the original process, not following the original practices. See, inherently the revivalists have a problem. Inherently the revivalists have a problem because they believe that the practices which are problematic were not part of religion when it started. History will tell you otherwise, because that is not true. When Vedic Brahmanism started, it had in itself this issue of caste system, varna system, social distinctions. Reformists, see, when I will teach you, for example, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, at sometimes you will not be able to figure out is he a revivalist or reformist. Reformists, in a way, are not in a good or bad sense forward looking, and revivalists are backward looking, in the sense that the reformists look forward to changing what is there. Revivalists want to go backward to what the original form was. This is the difference. They believe that we will change religion. They believe that they will revive religion. Please understand this point. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. Reformists don't say that original religion is the problem. They believe the religion itself is the problem. See, understand this point. Reformists do not reject religion. Please understand this point. Reformists do not reject religion. They only change religion to something new. Revivalists also don't say that we reject religion. They go back to the original practices. I'll give you a very simple example. You will understand it through the Islam example. See, in Islam, there is a concept called Hadith tradition. Hadith. And there are multiple interpretation-based changes which the Quranic verses can be seen from. And Shariat, in that sense, is very dynamic, because it can change over a period of time. Reformists say that the Islam which they see in 2023, it has inherent issues in it, and therefore the Sharia should be changed to something else, better or forward. or there needs to be a new addition to it. But a revivalist would say no. From the point Islam started to 2023, there have been multiple interpretations and changes which have come through. Their argument is that these problems exist because of these changes. So let's remove these changes and go back to original religion, and it will be perfect. There's a presumption that original religion is pure. See, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because revivalists have an agenda. See, we don't need to complicate it so much. This is very straightforward things. See, in a way, reformists believe in the British agenda of change. But revivalists have an agenda. If you remember, how did the British evaluate our culture? How did they evaluate our culture? They called it inferior. They called it inferior vis-a-vis the Western civilization, which was superior, yes or no? That is the evaluation, right? That you have inferior and you have superior. We are inferior, they are superior. Now, what the revivalists are saying is that we were not inferior. It is you, the British, who has made us inferior. If we go back to the ancient and medieval form of our religion, it is better than what it is right now. Reformists want the British to take us forward. Use legislative reform. Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Revivalists say that this British is the problem. They are the ones who have distorted our religion. Let's go back to the original form. Thereby arguing that our original ancient medieval religions were superior to Western culture. Their agenda is to critique the British notion that India is an inferior civilization. Arya Samaj wanted to prove to the British that Indian society, Indian religion, and Indian structures were better and always better than the British, and the British are the ones who distorted and destroyed it. That is why there is no right and wrong here. Both are needed. Reformists want to reform, they will reform. Revivalists want to reform by going back and saying that the British is the distortion. Dayanand Saraswati is, yes, a revivalist. Go back to the Vedas, as he said. So he's literally saying, go back to the Vedas. Can I now demonstrate to you reformists and revivalists? But I will tell you, from time to time, you will ask me, sir, how are you saying that he's a reformist? Because they will sound like revivalists only. Can we move on from this conversation? Because I put in a lot of time to make you explain this. Multiple examples, multiple concepts. I would now rather want to go to revivalism than to reformism. Right? Okay, perfect. So, our first discussion is reformist movement. And the most number of organizations are here. To give you a glimpse, Brahmo Samaj, Pratna Samaj, Young Bengal Movement, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Pandita Ramabai, Malabari, you have Ramakrishna Mission, and you have Servants of India Society, and 3-4 more. Revivalists are only 3. Arya Samaj, one is called the Jat Pat Todakmal, and one is called the Dharma Samaj, which we'll see. This is all Hindu reform and revivalism. Then I will go into Parsi, then I will go into Muslim, and then I will go into Sikh. We'll do every religion, reform and revivalism. So what I'm starting is reformist movement, Hinduism. Right? Okay. Now here, the man who started all of this, the father of the Indian Renaissance, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Now Raja Ram Mohan Roy Ram Mohan Roy. Raja given to him by Akbar II for pleading for his pension. I will write RRMR, not RRR, but RRMR. Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He is the father of reformism. And his organization are the ones which need a little bit of explanation also, because there's a lot of changes which were happening within Brahmo Samaj or Brahmoism, the Brahmo Samaj of India, Adi Brahmo Samaj, and Tattva Bodhisrabha. I'll discuss that. Now, he comes from a very good family, very, very good family. He was related to the Diwani of Nawabship of Bengal itself, connected to the Mughal emperor himself. He knew close to 6 to 7 different languages. He understood Hebrew, he understood English, Hindi, even Arabic, Persian, Urdu. He understood everything, more or less. And that is why he worked for the British for 9 years. First a banker, then a scribe. Scribe means the person who would write for the British. He wrote for the British as a scribe for 9 years and then saw the real face of the British from within and left it. And when he left it, he was disillusioned by the way the British were operating. But he hated the way the Christian missionaries were criticizing Indian religion and Hinduism by saying that it is an inferior religion, it is an inferior civilization. And therefore, based on his understanding, he had done all other things also. Scribe means a person who's a dictation taker. You say something, he will take a dictation. Now, as I said, Raja Ram Mohan Roy wrote about a lot of things, about God, about religion, about the concept of religion. He also talked about how the British were destroying agriculture. But we are interested in one organization he will start. It's called the Atmiya Sabha. The Atmiya Sabha was something which he started. Yes, stenographer, if you want to see. Atmiya Sabha started as a very informal organization in his house. Never had a proper organization. Only survived for 4 years. Also, only started in 1815. By 1819, it was more or less disbanded. Atmiya Sabha means the friendship society in a way. And it was talking about something new, which is called Brahmoism. This is his reformed form of Hinduism. And Brahmoism origin comes from Atmiya Sabha, and there are basically 4 to 5 basic ideas about Brahmoism, which is a reformed form of Hinduism. They're not atheists, they're theists. They believe in God, but their practices are different. Now, Brahmoism is based on the concept of one God, or monoism, or monoism, or monotheism. In a period where we have multiple gods, one God, formless, that was what called Nirgun Sapna. Nirgun means there is Sagun Nirgun. Nirgun means when you don't give God a form. For example, in Islam, or for example, in Christianity, in Jainism, there's no form to God. Jews, formless God. There's a God, but there's no quality. Nirgun. And there's Sagun. Ram Bhakti, Krishna Bhakti, Shiv Bhakti. That is giving your God a certain form. He also said that we need to go back to the Vedas and Upanishads are important and we need to read them. Now, herein comes the contradiction. He is a reformist, but he's talking about Vedas and Upanishads, which is basically going back to the original religious texts. His idea was also that religious intermediaries The Pandits are the problem because they are interpreting religion in the wrong way. And he wanted to do rituals and concepts other than prevailing one. But one thing should be very clear: Brahmoism does not reject Hinduism, and more importantly, it is a little bit conservative. Christianity believers in Mother Mary. When you talk about Jesus and you talk about Mother Mary, then you're giving form. But those are prophets. They are not God. God in Christianity does not have a form. Now, in that context, Raja Ram Mohan Roy is not talking about something very path breaking. Brahmoism, one second. Brahmoism critiques child marriage, that is standard, sati, widow remarriage, it talks about education also. But Brahmoism is more geared at critiquing the missionaries. And that is why Atmiya Sabha really did not work properly. It was very upper caste, Brahmins, elites used to meet. And one of those elites was Dwarka Nath Tagore, the great grandfather of, or the grandfather of Rabindranath Tagore. Atmiya Sabha never really worked 4 years. But before his death, before he went to England, where he died in 1830, he went 1833, he died. He established what is called the Brahmo Samaj. (1828). I'll give you the dates. Don't worry. Every date is written here. You can see. You have Atmiya Sabha, and every date is given. Atmiya Sabha 1815, 1819, 1828. Everything is given. That part I will read it out to you. Now, when Brahmo Samaj was established, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was already very, very old. It was very clear that he would not be able to take the Brahmo Samaj to forward. So he needed one person to succeed him. So Raja Ram Mohan Roy nominated a person called Debendranath Tagore, who is no one else but the father of Rabindranath Tagore. And he himself had a society called the Tattva Bodhini Sabha. Tattva Bodhini Sabha. And he is conservative in the way that he is conservative in the sense that he does not want to challenge everything, and he wanted to just critique the missionaries. And after Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Debendranath Tagore is going to become the Acharya, the head of Brahmo Samaj. But in the process of becoming Acharya, he met with a person called K.C. Sen, Kesab Chandra Sen. And Kesab Chandra Sen, K.C. Sen, he believes in the Brahmo cause, but he's too radical. He spread Brahmoism to Bangladesh sector. He took Brahmoism to the Maharashtra sector. He expanded Brahmoism very quickly, or Brahmo Samaj in that regard, very quickly. But his followers now started to do things which Debendranath Tagore never agreed to. He will start to talk about inter-caste marriage, which Debendranath Tagore does not agree to. He will start to talk about burning the sacred thread, which is the Geneva or the sacred thread which the upper three varnas wear. And therefore, K.C. Sen was doing something which Debendranath Tagore did not agree to. But Debendranath Tagore had by 1860 made K.C. Sen the one of the second in command when it came to Brahmo Samaj. So K.C. Sen seems to be ahead of his time, but you will see he will turn out to be a hypocrite. K.C. Sen was also reformist. All are reformist only. We talk Brahmo Samaj is reformist. Did K.C. Sen directly took movement from Bangladesh to Maharashtra? So you're asking me if he literally took it when he traveled from Bangladesh to Maharashtra. No. He's traveling around and spreading it. Sacred thread is, you would have seen people wear that thread which is worn by the upper caste and the Brahmins. Tattva Bodhini Sabha is the body which Debendranath Tagore was part of, his own body. Now, Debendranath Tagore starts to hate K.C. Sen because K.C. Sen is doing things which Debendranath Tagore does not like. And in 1865, Debendranath Tagore is going to expel K.C. Sen from this body, and K.C. Sen will form what is called as the Brahmo Samaj of India, and he will develop what is called the Adi Brahmo Samaj. This is the first split in the Brahmo Samaj. Now, Adi Brahmo Samaj operated to critique the missionaries. But with Debendranath Tagore's conservatism and his death, this organization more or less ceased to exist once he died. And it is the Brahmo Samaj of India which went forward with his radical ideas. However, over a period of time, Brahmo Samaj of India started to see issues within it because K.C. Sen started to act like that he was only God. And this person who was talking about no child marriage will marry his daughter to the child daughter, to the Raja of Kuch Bihar, which is a small princely state, a small ruler of Bihar, and turn out to be the biggest hypocrite in the world. And this will lead to the second split in the Brahmo Samaj. The Brahmo Samaj of India will be there, which will still be with under K.C. Sen. This will cease to exist because K.C. Sen was a hypocrite at the end of the day. And the one which exists till today is called the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. This is the body which till today exists and basically represents the concept of Brahmoism. So if I put it like this, Atmiya Sabha Brahmo Samaj, Adi Brahmo Samaj, Brahmo Samaj of India, and Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Devendranath plus KC Sen, KC Sen, Devendranath. Does it make sense? Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, no specific founder. Does this make sense? Atmi Samaj and Brahmo Samaj differences. Atmi Samaj was not a proper Samaj. It had no organizational concept, just an informal body. Brahmo Samaj was a proper Samaj. Atmi Samaj did not have proper membership systems also. It's the first Raja Ram Mohan Roy conception of anything. Are we in a position to write the evolution of the Brahmo Samaj after reading the basic points out of the PPT? Okay. So let's read it out. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, you don't have to remember these things, just for a basic reference. Born in Hooghly district in 1772. The same year, dual administration was ended. Brahmo Samaj, he was a part of the Brahmo Samaj. He's the founder of the Brahmo Samaj. You can make an infograph, Priya, but first you have to explain it through a paragraph-based concept. So, born in 1772, Hooghly, father, a follower of a very important Bhakti saint of Bengal, Chaitanya, and her mother, follower of Shakti. Elite Persianized Hindus because they were related to the courts of the Nawabs. Knew Sanskrit, Arabic, English, French, Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. And worked as a private banker, then for the East India Company for 9 years. He understood the lopsided functioning of the colonial government, left for England in 1830, died in 1833 in England itself. Hooghly River. Yes, Hooghly district, Hooghly River, same thing. Obviously was not born in the river itself. Hooghly district. Main concept of the organization to remove social evils in society. Shoaib, I know you've just joined. I saw your joining time. So now you have the issue of understanding this. Their main concept is not to remove social evils, is to challenge the British notion that India is all about social evils itself. So it is not an organic concept, it's a response to the British image which was shown about India. Now, the basic ideological core of Raja Ram Mohan Roy comes from his understanding of multiple religions. So he understands Islam also, he understands Sufism within Islam itself, he understands Christianity, he understands the West and what are the doctrines of the West itself. He translated the Vedas and Upanishads into English and Bengali. He started to say that the priests don't have the proper knowledge of our scripture, that is the issue. Attacked the rigidity of the caste system also. He rejected that the missionaries argue that Christianity is superior. But he will be also the one who will support the British in establishing education institutions because he believed that that could take India forward. So in 1817, David Hare, Hindu College, supported by him. Thereafter, Anglo-Hindu College, 1822, he will support. Vedanta College, again, he will support in 1825. In 1830, he will support the Scottish Church College, which is again something which he did all throughout his life. He will keep on supporting people who wanted to develop English education as a form of understanding that that is the way you make forward. No, don't have to learn this. Do not learn. Just to basically give you an idea. because then you will say that you didn't tell us about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So Raja Ram Mohan Roy also wrote a lot of text. This needs to be remembered. For example, the Tufat ul Muwahidin, which was about social contract, reason in religion. Then 1809, 1821, Gift to a Monotheist. Then he will also start a Brahmanical magazine, bilingual, English and Hindi. And then a Bengali weekly called Sambad Kaumudi to spread reformism across Bengal. The point is, he is a prolific personality generally in his own right. But what we are more interested in about the things which he started. For example, Atmiya Sabha. 1815 he will start. No first attempt to for have an organization, but was a private informal society in his house. He used to sing hymns. Hindu scriptures were read. Dwarkanath Tagore, the father of Debendranath Tagore, was already a part of it. And other people are also quite important in this. For example, Nand Kishore Bose and Brindaban Mitra. These are very big, what we call as traders, and also very big personalities at this point of time in Bengal politics and Bengal society. They promoted collective thinking, denounced orthodoxy, but this will cease to exist after 1819 because they were just meeting at his home. It was a small party which he used to organize, in which they used to think about all these things. The proper organizational base will be given in 1828. Before his next year, 2 years, he's going to go into England. This is a proper body because though attended by only Bengali Brahmins, the elite character, this will start to have by 1830 a proper building, a proper organization, a proper following, proper forms to become a part of the Brahmo Samaj itself. And the people who are associated with the Brahmo Samaj will start to think about the following. Nirgun Sapna, which is formless God, discarded the concept of divine avatars, which is divine avatars, different avatars. You don't have to think about the avatars. God is formless. So they're basically talking about Vishnu and Shiva avatars. They don't want to talk about them. Purify Hinduism. Now, this is the problem. Now, he's basically talking like a revivalist. A.M. Bose basically is not the founder of Ramvat, is not the founder of Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. 4 people were together. I don't want to give you the names because then becomes too heavy. Anand Mohan Bose is not directly related to Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. He's not the only one. I know his name. I know his association with Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, but he isn't really. 4 people were together. All were sick and tired of KC Sen. Now, monotheism is something which they believe in. And they talk about the Vedas and the Upanishads. Vedas and the Upanishads. The followers of this one man, Debendranath Tagore, his body, founded by him itself, Tattva Bodhini Sabha, was already promoting the India's past in Bengali language. And you can see he has a little bit of revivalist streak in that regard. And after Roy's death, Debendranath Tagore will take up the leadership of the Brahmo Samaj, and he will start to argue that Vedic scriptures are infallible, which is cannot be challenged. And this is again his conservatism which is coming through. If you write all for Ramvan, that will be right. A.M. Bose is not the single most important person. Thereafter, the Samaj will start to actively support widow remarriage, abolition of polygamy, women's education, superstition practices. It will deny the fact that these priestly class are the problem because they don't understand what they're saying. And they will then get associated with Kesab Chandra Sen, KC Sen, in 1860. He had his own body called Sangat Sabha, but he is a proper radical. He'll start to abandon caste, the sacred thread. His followers will try to do an intercaste marriage. They will try to do an intercaste widow remarriage. And the Orthodox faction was becoming more and more infuriated and more angry over it. And though the Samaj was spreading like a lot and becoming more and more relevant, Kesab Chandra Sen was not liked by Debendranath Tagore too much. And therefore, Debendranath Tagore, you can see, Ramban. Kesab Chandra Sen, A.M. Bose left the Samaj and started the Brahmo Samaj of India in 1866. And Devendranath Tagore started his Adi Brahmo Samaj. So A.M. Bose is already related to Brahmo Samaj of India. However, because of the conservatism of Tagore, Adi Brahmo Samaj is going to become more or less useless. And the Samaj branches will keep on expanding, but Sen becoming a problem will be the problem. Soon, Kesab Chandra Sen will glorify himself as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu himself, marry his own minor daughter to the Raja of Kuch Bihar, and that in turn will lead to a band of his followers to create Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. As Raman pointed out, one of those members was A.M. Bose, but there are four more members, which I don't want to tell you because it gives you too many names to remember. And later Brahmo Samaj of India will gradually go out, and the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj till today exists as a branch which talks about, as a body which talks about Brahmoism, helping the poor, expanding into South India and England. Also in America, you'll also find Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. This basically still is acting in the same lines, and Brahmoism is still very, very common in Bengal in that regard. So, see, now the point is what to do with all this information. I have just explained everything to you, and I have also read the same thing to you. Your task is going to be very simple, which is condensation of all this knowledge into one space. If you can do that, this topic should not be a problem for you generally. What I'm doing it for you is showing you a sample. If you're able to do what I'm doing here, you will never. Acha, I'll call you Anil. Then you can do it for everybody. Everything. Organization, founder, ideology, remarks. So, आत्मीय समाज, तत्वबोधिनी सभा, ब्रह्मो समाज, आदि ब्रह्मो समाज, ब्रह्मो समाज of India. And need we not one more? Atmi Sabha, Sabha, Samaj, same thing. You want to write Samaj, Sabha. Same thing. Different people call it same. You call it Atmiya Sabha. Okay. I need one more box. Okay. This is Sadharan. What about Young Bengal movement? When did I say that the topic is over? Founder, Devendranath Tagore. Ideology. Brahmoism, Nirgun Sapana, monotheism, critique, Pandits, spread but split between Sen and Tagore. These organizations are small sub-religions. They're not sub-religions. This is what I'm trying to say. These are offshoots, if you want to say. Devendranath Tagore critique the British and missionaries, but they are conservative. Intercaste marriage, caste, widow remarriage, cases and turned out to be hypocrite. Took core Brahmoism forward, split after K.C. Sen married minor daughter to Raja Kuch Bihar and still exists. Das Ashram and all too minor a point. Now, can we call these organizations similar to what we like today, Radha Swami? Yeah, that is what it is. It's basically they are not separate religions. They are within the basic religious fold. They are movements within it. Now you see, if you can remember this, anything related to the examination, mains or prelims can be taken out of this only. Can be taken out of this only. Are you understanding the assignment here? And this would be 1878. Yes. Kuch Bihar, same thing. So, last one, Sadharan Brahmo Samaj took Brahmoism, core Brahmoism forward, monotheism, Nirgun Sapna. K.C. Sen, when he married his daughter, they split, still exists today and have ashrams in that sense. Social reform movement, there is a mains question there. It has come with specific reference to Brahmo Samaj. They've asked a direct question. Do we really need to remember years? Years you don't have to have added for your curiosity. You just have to remember what is their core ideology, what is the concept itself. Are we clear about this? Because you have to do this for every organization henceforth. For every organization, you have to do it. Exactly same thing. The concept is that I will be talking about 5, 10 organizations. You have to create your own repository. K.C. Sen married his own daughter. as it is believed, sir, it is BS in Vedantic philosophy. They believed was more pure than what Puranic based Hinduism was there at that point of time. Now, understand this point. 10 organizations. I will give you now rough charts like this. Your basic endeavor is going to be make this for for yourself and make a repository of this for yourself. You want to make it and email me. I will be happy to see it and see how you've made it. Every reformist and revivalist organization has to be divided under these basic categories. Everything else is too descriptive and is not needed in that sense. So if we are clear about this, I want to do Derozio and then we take our lunch break. Okay, great. Okay, now the next person is a person called Henry Vivian Derozio. Vivek, this is summarization only. I've summarized whatever I've done till this point in this. Now, Henry Vivian Derozio, he's a Portuguese. He's a Portuguese educated, he's a national, Portuguese national also. Which region? Sadharan Brahmojawal? Bengal, still Bengal. Derozio is a Portuguese. He taught in the Hindu college in Calcutta. But because Derozio is a Portuguese teacher, he understands the French Revolution. He understands what was happening in the world at that point of time. And his writings, yes, Raman, yes, Anil. Vivian sounds West Indies because you only know Viv Richards, so everybody's a West Indies. Okay. Henry Vivian Derozio, English educated, understands Portuguese also, traveled the world. He knows the ideas of liberty, fraternity, freedom. These ideas he knew very well. And though he had no real impact himself, his students started a movement. His students started a movement, and that is called the Young Bengal movement. The problem with the Young Bengal movement was that it was too radical for its time. What I mean by that is that they were talking about challenging colonialism. They were talking about the concept of unequal relationship between Indians and the British. What by what right was the British in India? They were asking very uncomfortable questions which nobody wanted to subscribe to. So while they will write a lot, they will have a lot of papers and journals in which they will write. Nobody wanted to prescribe to the ideas of Young Bengal because Young Bengal was too radical for its own time. Maybe 50 years down the line, Henry Vivian Derozio would be a nationalist, proper nationalist. His poems, in the sense, are still seen as the first nationalist poems which were coming out. His followers never were followed too much by the people because 1820s, the people were too conservative to challenge the British authority and British understanding. So questioning the authority of British presence is something which is too radical. They're saying that there needs to be equality, freedom. They wanted Indians in high posts, not even the educated middle class at this point of time wanted to take up these issues. In the same way, they were saying that we need socio-economic, political questions need to be taken up. And the biggest point was they will start to even question very basic things. They will say that how is there a unequal political status of natives and Europeans? They were showing frustration against it. They will write journals such as the Pantheon, Hesperus, Gyaneshwar, Enquirer, Hindu Pioneer, Quill, Bengal Spectator. In all of these, they will basically ask the same question: why is the British here? They will even have a society of acquisition of general knowledge, which will talk about the same issues which everybody was talking about. But people stayed away from this, very far away from this, because they believed that they were asking too uncomfortable a question at that point of time. Being anti-British was not something socialist reform movement was about. Anti-colonialism is not something which they're seeking. And for the same reason, this body failed, but was the stepping stone to something much bigger, which was going to come later, which is early nationalism. They did not get patronage or support from educated middle class, too radical for their own liking. So what you do is that you have to just, as I told you, make a simple entry into your table. Young Bengal movement, Henry Vivian Derozio, frustration with unequal relationship, radical ideas of freedom, liberty, etc. Remarks too radical for their time. Can you do this? I'll tell you what to write for each. You have to just make it your own. So since the morning, or rather since afternoon, past 3 hours, we've covered revivalist, reformist, early intervention, why socialist reform movement start, two organizations called the Babno Samaj and Henry Vivian Derozio. Are we all on the same page? No issues, generally all good. If yes, then we'll take a break and come back at 3:40 and take the story forward. No issues, anyone? Want to add something? Want to subtract something? We Indians are also suppressed that we are not questioning. The problem is that you can't ask these questions at that point of time. Doesn't the people, the British is too powerful at this point of time, and the people don't have a nationalistic streak. Young Bengal movement limited to young Italy, yes. Now the ideas of Derozio, I was going to discuss this after the break. The ideas of Derozio was actually related to Mazzini and Garibaldi. The unification of Italy and Germany, the third phase of their unification will start at this point of time. And Mazzini will start to write about the concept of nation and its aspirations. And that is how Derozio got influenced, and his writers, his friends, and his students started to read Mazzini and Garibaldi. So that word young Bengal comes from young Italy movement. So that is the connection. Young India is a paper, that's a separate issue altogether. If you are coming according to dates, then why? What about Pratna Samaj? No, we are not. We are not. Shreyas, I am not discussing as per chronology. I am only discussing as per organization. When we come back, we discuss Ramakrishna Mission, then Pratna Samaj, then I'm going organization by organization. Were the people not ready to take the idea of Young Bengal? No, that is the point. 1820s, 30s, people are not ready. It is only after 1857 that people became ripe for that understanding. Because the moral justification and the economic justification of British rule still stands at this point of time. The point is, Young Bengal and Young Italy connection is that both are reading with both are reading, meaning Mazzini is writing, they are reading. That is the connection. because that was most probably, I think, Raman, you did it, Anil, you did it with me, for example, in weekday batch, or you did it in weekend batch. That is totally on the batch which I teach. Here we take a lunch break. So I don't know how you're saying 10 minutes break. Now you're giving too many break. We take a break like this only in this. So either you're new to this batch or I don't know. World history, we used to do it like this only. I've not taken world history in weekend. I have, but very old batch. There also I used to give 10, 10, 15, 15 minutes. I don't know what you're talking about. Weekend batch, we take 3 breaks. I don't know if you are aware of that. A, B, C. And you would be talking about weekday batch. There I give you 10 minutes only. Everybody who here knows that I give in the 3.5 hour class, you take 10 minutes only. I am actually student of morning batch. That explains it, right? In morning evening batch, everybody knows 10 minutes. Okay. Kirti, no break because you joined right now. Kirti, I can see your joining time. 2:47 you joined. Kirti Singh. So everyone else has been sitting since 12. So Kirti, I know when you join. We are not able to ask questions for ourselves. Yeah, we can't because there is no conception of nationalism at that point of time. You should know that I know everybody's joining time. It tells me when you joined. For example, Kirtana ji just joined. And some of us need to have lunch also. So fair, not fair, Anil. Weekend batch, if your first experience, welcome. Okay. How did he die so young? He was basically, he died of disease, diarrhea, and then later got a major issue in his stomach. Died very young. Okay. Can we take a break? All of us on the same page? And Anil, if you don't know, we sit till 8 p.m. So you will be the first one to ask for a break next time. Don't worry. Weekend batch 12 to 8, 10 to 8. Tomorrow we meet Eve 2 hours early, 10 to 8. So if 10 minutes break is enough for you, sure. I'll have lunch in front of you and we can keep on teaching. Go on till 8 o'clock. Marathon kar dete hain. Maza aa jayega. Okay. PPT annotations are enough for exam. Yes, yes. You have to read NCRTs with the PPT. That is a given. That is that. He's radical, Gaurav, because he's seen the world. He understands French Revolution, the radical ideas of that. That is quite important. That is. Well, Priya, CNA, I'll be back once my morning batch is over. Till I'm in the morning batch, DNA, CNA, I can't take. Na? I'm from 6 to 9:30, 10, I'm in class only. I'll be back, don't worry. Oh, BL Grover, Ankit, take it, throw it out of the window as far as you can. जितना दूर फेंक सकते हो. BL Grover has factual incorrections and certain areas is actually very badly written. See, I think then you are new. PPT plus NCERT is a must. Thereafter, you want to read Spectrum, you want to read Bipin Chandra, or you want to read my own book. That is totally on your Shraddha Bhakti towards the books itself. Ancient medieval conducted. When? I think ancient medieval is coming. Weekend batch is coming. I'll give you a break. Don't worry. I'll make it up for you. Don't worry. We didn't receive. That is why I'm saying that PPT and NCRT is available for free. NCRT is available for free. PPT you're getting annotated PPT you're getting automatically. Who will teach ancient? Ancient, medieval, art and culture, world history, everything me. Modern India, some batches with me, some batches with Rohit sir. Going with Spectrum, found it good. Sure, Jaswant. See, my own book, the point is that if you buy that, you get ancient, medieval art and ancient, medieval, modern in one place. That is totally your call. So why we see Casey Sen change in ideology? He was always a hypocrite. He was only acting. Okay, which book? It's called UGC Net Paper 2 History. You'll find it on Amazon. You'll find it on Amazon. Uh, Orange colored book. That's a book written by me that has ancient, medieval, and modern all three together. Though written from a net perspective, assistant professor, but UPSC inbuilt into it, and that is a bigger umbrella. Okay, Tina has been kind enough to send the Flipkart link also is there, but yeah, she's provided the link also. Okay, can we take a break? Maybe NCRT will also be covered in. Yeah. My PPT is an amalgamation of 8 different sources. Shekhar Bandyopadhyay, you will have Cambridge History of India, you will have the NCRTs, and I really don't go towards Spectrum because in Spectrum there are multiple dates which are up down. But optional level books, I have made these PPTs out of. So don't worry about that. Why don't you take current affairs class daily? Because I'm not Shah Rukh Khan ka Jawan that I can do double role. The problem is that I can't be in class also and be in reading the newspaper also and making that. Once I'm out of morning batch, I will be back. Don't worry about that. What about Casey Sen? Did you say his daughter married to Raja of Kuch Bihar? Yes. He the hypocrite did child marriage of his own daughter. No, that is not true, Ankit. UGC books, UGC, see the net paper. It is not factual. It is much more difficult than UPSC. That is more conceptual. Factual to everything is, but more conceptual. I do teach history optional, not right now live, but very soon. Other option is to take the recorded course where paper 2 is with me. Okay, so Priya, I've spoiled Jawan for you. SRK is in the dual role. Okay, okay, sir. Okay, chalo, see you. Because I've taken some time out of you, so I'll give it back to you. I'll leave you on this slide, though. We'll be back at 3:50. Works? Works for you? 10 minutes I've taken. 10 minutes I've given back. I'm not like the British. I don't believe in exploitation. Priya, don't be too greedy. Don't be a Britisher. Okay. See you.